Put a little bit in there. And let's see if I can actually hit my eye. And you can see how it pools on the bottom part of the eye. Hi, my name is Adam Walls, and I'm an award-winning makeup artist. You may have seen my work in Marvel Studios' Echo. Are you curious about how to apply fake blood effectively for film and TV? Let's figure it out. Alright, welcome to Off the Walls Effects. So today we're going to go through blood. We're going to go through how I dress blood, personally myself, on set, what I like to see, what I think works really well. We're going to go through a couple different types. We're going to go through some thick blood, gel blood. We're going to go through some drying blood, dress blood, mouth blood. We're going to have a little fun with this, and I'm going to show you kind of how you can work with this stuff and how to make it look natural on your actor. Alright, so to get this thing going, we're going to need something very specific. Usually what happens is you have some sort of source. If you get a cut, or if you get splashed, or something like that, that's where your blood usually comes from. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint on a small cut on my forehead, and I'm going to show you how you can kind of get that to drip, and a couple techniques that I like to use when you do something like this. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and get my Skin Illustrator palette. This has got all the colors you basically need in order to make an effective looking cut. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this real quick. Of course, you're going to need your 99% alcohol, handful of brushes, a little water spray. You're going to need some blood. Now this is a mix of Fleet Street, fresh and dark. It's about a 50-50 mix of both. I find that the fresh is a little too fresh and the dark is a little too dark, but if you mix the two, now you got it. I have a little bit of gel blood, a little bit of mouth blood, and I've got a different sort of thick blood here too. So we're going to play with a couple of these things, and I'm going to show you kind of what you can do with this. Alright, so we're going to jump in with my Skin Illustrator palette. We're going to jump into this. And this aged blood color that's right here. This color I love. This color is a fantastic blood color. It's not too bright. A lot of times you'll see blood on set and it's really, really bright. I don't like the way that reads. I think the brighter the blood is, the faker it looks to my eye. So I always like to go a little bit darker with my blood. So this is a good one to start with. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to make sure that my skin is nice and dry. I will go ahead and put it up here. And I'm going to go ahead and do a big old gash up here. Yeah, that'll work. That's good shape. Now the next color I'm going to use a color called Ultra Blue, which is out of that same effects palette. I like to use this color because you mix blue and red and you get a little bit of a purple. Also because it's darker, you can kind of fake a little bit of a shadow with this, which is what I really like it for. So you kind of get a double whammy. You get that purple, which is great. You're going to get that color in a wound like this, but you're also going to fake a shadow, which is going to fake your depth, which is also really helpful. When I do a cut like this, usually I do a little bit of highlight over top. I usually do a rice paper sort of highlight. You can find that out of the Light Skin Illustrator palette. But if you don't have one of those palettes, there's another good way you can go. Out of the effects palette, you can jump in with a little bit of your white, green, yellow, and red. Mix those colors together and you can kind of get a little something like this, which is a little bit more in that skin tone, but you can add some more white to this to really give it a highlighty sort of pop. That's what I'm doing right now, so I'm going to go through and put a little bit more white in this and give this a nice little highlight over top, and then we're going to blend it out into the skin. So you can already see right there that it's starting to fake the depth. You can see the shadow, you can see the red, and you can see the highlight kind of right up in this area. Now, this is the thing about this, is obviously that's not finished, but you can start to see how the depth starts to work in there. So we're going to sit and finesse this a little bit. And it's at this point I like to go back and forth with my colors. So if I see a spot that needs a little bit more red, if I see a spot that needs a little bit more blue, I can go back and do that. So now that we have the base of the cut on there, I like to add a little bit of breakup around the wound to show some irritation. So I'm going to go back in with that aged blood. Go in with a little bit of blood tone if you want to punch it up a little bit too. That also works. Alright, so I think that's kind of given us something fun to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and seal this up. I'm going to dry it up real quick. It's also a little warm in here right now, so I want to make sure that I kind of get the sweat away so we don't wipe this thing off. But it gives you an idea of, you know, what you can do with just a little bit of color. I'm going to go ahead and seal this up real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and put some blood on it. Alright, so the next step, I'm going to go ahead and use some final seal. I'm going to kind of put this over top. That's going to give it a nice good barrier, so when I put my blood on top, I'm not going to be erasing my paint job. Alright, so now we're going to add our blood to this. At this point, I have a couple things on standby. Have your blood, obviously. Have some Q-tips standing by. Have some CC cups standing by. Have your water standing by. And then usually have a tissue or something standing by. That way you can kind of clean up anything that gets a little funky. Now, there are many ways to dress blood. I know some people really like these little needle nose tip guys, and these are great if you're trying to get into some detail work. I don't have the right blood in here right now, so I'm not going to use this one for this cut. I'm going to kind of use my fleece treat. I'm going to show you how that works. So first off, I'm going to put a little in this cup. This is a big nozzle, and sometimes a nozzle like this can cause a bunch of issues if you're just trying to like put it on. You don't want like a solid like drip. You'll see this a lot. People go ahead and drip blood, and they'll have one drip coming down. You don't want one drip. It doesn't look very natural. If there's any wine aficionados out there, if you look at legs, if you spin your wine in a wine glass and you get those long legs that kind of come down the side of your glass, especially if you have a nice, good red wine, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those little lines of liquid to be coming down. So if that's a good way to visualize how you want to do your blood, that's a great way to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get a Q-tip out, and I'm going to start putting my blood on. Now this is just a regular Q-tip, and you can use something like this, or if you have access to something like an IT, which looks a little bit more like this. The points on these ITs are great. You've got a paddle end on one side and this pointed end on the other. And the pointed end is really helpful if you want to get in there for any sort of detail work. I'll give you an example. So now that we have it on our point, I can use this, much like you would out of that needle nose. You can kind of get in here and kind of use this as a little bit more precise to get that blood to flow. Now you're probably looking at this and going, well, that doesn't look very realistic. No, you're right, it doesn't. That's where this comes in. Get a little bit of that water going, give it a little spritz. Notice how I spritz down here? The reason why I did that is especially when you start to drip your blood, that blood is going to find the water that I spritzed. And so you're going to start to get those paths off of this blood drip. Now you can see I'm kind of adding a little bit of extra blood in there. I'm kind of getting thick with it up in here. It's because I want it to drip down my face. Now I don't like this over here that's too clean. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of feather this out a little bit. Make it messy. And again, if you need to help it down to where you want it to go, and help it down. Now you do have to be careful around the eye, because this stuff can get in your eye and does sting. So now at this point, it's not looking too bad. This is something where it's like you're starting to get a little bit of that breakup. You're starting to get some of those legs that I was talking about. I'll probably get in here and I'll thicken some of this up along down the side. I'm going to break this up just a little bit more so it doesn't look like it's just one solid streak. And then the other part about this too is this is when you start to stand back and squint. Stand back and squint at it and see what it looks like. If you can start doing that, probably from this camera you'll be able to see that on this side there's a lot of white. It looks very, very clean. So I'm going to get in there and I'm going to kind of break this up just a little bit just so it doesn't catch my eye as much. You're looking at the composition. Again, from like an art point of view, you're still making something on the face. So you want to make sure that it's pleasing to the eye. Nothing's going to catch you where you're like, wait a minute, that looks weird. Why is that there? Those are the sorts of things you're trying to catch. Now you can see why this blue is so important up here. Because a lot of time when you put blood, especially over a painted wound, you basically obliterate your paint job. So you're really looking for those darker colors underneath to really come through when you add that blood on top. Alright, now we're dealing with something that works. You can kind of see it from all angles and see kind of how it looks in the light, how it reflects, how you were kind of faking that depth in the center. And it's one of those things that as you look at this and you kind of see it on camera, you know, yeah, that's not bad. You could probably make this work. This is something that you could totally have on an actor and it would work in the film. Now, if you do get to a point where you start realizing that that dark spot is supposed to be the deep part of our wound, you start realizing, oh, it doesn't look very deep, especially if you're catching it in the light. At a couple points, you're like, oh, that's totally flat. You know what I mean? So at those points, you can go ahead and jump into your gel blood. And I've got some gel blood here that I have in this small container. And you use some of this to kind of make some depth. I think my gel blood is drying out a little bit, but that's fine. This stuff is all water soluble, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of water on this to kind of spruce it back up. And there we go. Now we're cooking with something. Let's get a little of this in there. Again, you can see that thickness on there, and that sort of thickness is going to be great because we're going to go ahead and put that right in the wound. Now I have that dark spot there, which I really like, so I'm not going to cover that, but what I am going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more down towards the bottom. You can see already that little amount made a huge difference. And so now we've got a cut that's got some thickness. There's a little bit of breakup. You can see how it's kind of catching the light in those spots. You can kind of see what a difference that makes and how this thing looks. Okay, now that I've got those colors on there, I'm going to go ahead and break this up a little bit more. Again, we're talking about this area was looking really clean. This area is looking really clean too. So I'm going to add a little bit more up there just to kind of break things up a little bit. And then we're going to take it from there. Now the nice thing about these bloods is you can almost do them like finger paints. Get a little bit of moisture on there. You can kind of work it around. And there you go. Now you got something that's, you know, pretty believable at that point. Now basically that's just a cut with a little bit of gel blood, a little bit of dress blood, and you can kind of see how we've run that dress blood down. Now I'm going to use a different product, so we're going to play with some of the Fleet Street Dirtworks drying paste. So we're going to play with this a little bit. You can see how it's similar to this gel blood that I was just using. This is from a makeup effects shop in LA. I do like their gel blood. It's K&B. These are the guys that did The Walking Dead and they did Chronicles of Narnia back in the day. Really, really talented folks over there. They make a great gel blood, so I like to have that in my kit at all times. But if you don't have access to that, you also can go ahead and grab this Fleet Street drying blood, and you can kind of see it's nice and thick. Now, if your actor is hot and sweating, like I am right now, it will reactivate everything. So it's one of those things that it's not perfect, but I really, really like the color. The color is one of those things that I really do enjoy. Now you can see how thick this stuff is, how it's got a little stretch to it. It's almost elastic. So this stuff, we're going to go ahead, I'm going to do another cut here underneath my eye. We're going to do a streak here. So instead of painting on a cut like we did before, I'm using this to kind of do a similar sort of thing. Now you can see how this stuff works a little bit differently. Now there's our second little scratch. Now you can see how it's got a little thickness to it. They do come in a couple different colors. You can get it in a scab color, you can get it in lymphatic, and then this is just the blood. So if you want to have like a scab or something like that, you can do that with this color pretty easily, or with this product pretty easily. But we're going to do another cut like this so I can show you another little drippy bit. The other thing too is, if that's not enough texture for it, if you want to add a little extra something, I have another product here called Coarse Rubber Dirt. I think it comes in coarse and fine. But the nice thing is this is essentially, it's just going to look really dark in here, but this is ground up rubber, and this is going to add a nice little texture to this. Now, if I just take this and stick it on my skin, I mean, yeah, I'll get a couple on the Q-tip, and if I just stick it on my skin, I might get one or two of those to stay on there, but it's rubber, so it's going to come right off. So it's one of those things that if you have something like Vinyl Seal, and you can take this and mix it in with this, you can make like a sticky sealer, slushy sort of thing. So now you get in there, and now you've got this gunk. Now you could mix this up with some blood beforehand, do that. I just put the blood down first because I wanted to show you how it worked. But you can take this, and I'm going to take my spatula here, and I'm going to take some of this gunk and put it in here. But this, when you start adding textures to your cuts and your wounds and your blood work, kind of kicks it up to that next level. And so I'm going to go ahead and get my drippy blood back out, and I'm going to give this a spritz of the water first, just to show you kind of when you can put the blood on there, you can get it to run. So now that I got that on there, watch what the blood does. The blood is going to find its own natural way down my face. So now I have some natural looking trails that the blood is following, and I can get in here and kind of follow behind. And just like we did before, I'm going to go in here and start kind of breaking it up a little bit. Now right now I'm kind of looking at this guy, and this guy's looking a little too globby to me. It's looking too much like a thing right there. So I'm trying to break this up just a little bit because I think it's just a little too much right there. So I'm going to try to noodle this a little bit more and see if we can get it to look a little bit more natural looking. So much of this is putting a little on, taking a little off, putting a little on, taking a little off. It's not about the blood that you're putting on. It's about how much skin you can see through it. What you're really going for is you're going for breakup. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. Break up, break up, break up. You can kind of see that, you can put this stuff on relatively quickly and it doesn't take a ton of time. But again, you're just looking for that breakup. You're looking for those areas to make it look a little bit more naturalistic. You don't just have one line coming down. You're trying to feather those edges off a little bit. You're trying to make it look like it's natural. All right, so the next product that I'm going to use is another product called Kryolan Eye Blood, and I'm going to kind of show you how this works. Now basically, eye blood is an eye-safe blood, so if you want to create some trauma in the eye, you can take a drop or two of this, drop it in your actor's eye, and they'll get a little bit of that blood thing going on. Now, this does not last forever. If you've got an actor who's supposed to have like an injured eye for like half the movie, do not use this. Take the time, make the investment, buy a contact lens, send the actor in to an eye doctor, get their eyes measured. There are plenty of vendors out there on the internet that can make a lens to those specifications. So go ahead and take the time and do that. Make sure you have a lens tech come in who, sanitizes everything, make sure that they're treating the eye. You don't want to damage anything up there. So that's really the way to go, especially if you're going to do something long-term on set. Trying to look for something really quick that you're going to have just like a shot or maybe two where there's some trauma in the eye or your character that's died, this is a really good way to go. And I'm going to show you how it works. Basically, it's just an eyedropper. Put a little bit in there. And let's see if I can actually hit my eye. Now you can see what it does. Of course, it does cause some irritation. Not crazy irritation, just enough where your eye feels it in there. And you can see how it pools on the bottom part of the eye. Now this is something that, again, you're not going to want to use it for the whole movie because your actor is going to be doing what I'm doing right now. And you may want them to do that. But again, you don't want to be putting this stuff in their eye every single take because that gets old after a while. And then you can kind of feather it down a little bit. Now you've got some eye trauma. And lastly, before this all leaves, get a little bit of mouth blood. Now mouth blood's kind of fun. Again, similar sort of thing to the eye blood where you can pop it in real quick. Mouth blood, give a little squirt. I usually like to have some water on set for the actor so they can do a little swig. Get their mouth a little wet, make sure it's in there, and then you can take your mouth blood, give a little squirt, wish it around, and you can get it driven down the face. Now I'm a mess. So one quick little side note about mouth blood. There's another thing that you can do with it, and I wasn't going to show it in the video because if I did, I would have spewed it all over my laptop sitting right in front of me. I wasn't going to do that. So one thing that you want to make sure that you're telling your actor to do in the scene that they are in is they have control over that blood. So if they inhale through their nose, they can spit that blood out. And one really good example is from season 2 of Peacemaker. I was working on that show, and one of the stunt actors who was on that show is a guy named Eddie Davenport, and I've worked with him on a couple different projects. I worked with him back on Logan back in the day. I've worked with him on the Suicide Squad, and Eddie's a character and a half, and I have a blast whenever I work with him. So this specific day on Peacemaker, he knew he was going to be coming out of the alternate dimension that Peacemaker is using, and he was going to be spewing blood in the take. So we really made sure to put a lot of water in his mouth, a lot of blood in his mouth, and he knew he was just going to spew it everywhere, and he was going to have a blast with it. So that's exactly what he did in the take, and of course it made it into the show. He was so effective at getting that blood out, they put it in slow-mo. That just goes to show how much control your actor has over that blood and how they spew it out. But if you need to have something in the mouth, you need those like red teeth like that, if that's what you're going for and that's what they're calling for in the script, this is another good way to go. So again, lots of bloods, lots of fun things you can have fun with, lots of options for this stuff. Again, cool, a lot of that in there. And it's minty. Minty. So now I've made a mess of myself over here. So, but yeah, those are the sorts of bloods that you can use on set and the sorts of things that you can use to, keep things interesting, if you will. So with all that being said, What did you think? Have you ever used any of these bloods on set before? Have you ever had an issue with any of these before? Had something that went really, really well, or did you have something go totally south? Definitely let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you're interested in picking any of these up, definitely check out the link in my bio. I think I've got little products that have popped up on this page, so if you're looking at picking any of this stuff up, check all that stuff out. It'll show you right where to get it. And of course, you know, I think I'm going to take some time to clean up because I am an absolute mess now. So, as I always say, you know, stay safe out there and keep making cool stuff.